All right, hi everyone. My name is Johanna Weiman. The assignment that I am covering today is our predictive research for our third presentation. It's our last one for the semester. This presentation covers an example case titled Sucker Punch. Now, we don't have an actual copy of a case or a citation since this is a made up one, so we have to go off the facts from the video that Miss Johnson gave us. I'm not going to play the facts with the audio. I'll just go ahead and cite it. Everyone had the exact same facts that I have. Basically, the facts were that the two parties, Jason and Mark, were drinking alcohol and roughhousing around when Jason dared Mark to punch him, saying, "I bet I can take it." Mark says no, originally, and Jason proceeds to grab Mark's wrist and yank Mark's arm towards his stomach, saying, "Come on, man, do it." So Mark pulls his arm away from Jason and then punches Jason in the face. This action breaks Jason's jaw and knocks out his teeth. As a result, Jason sues Mark for the assault. That was a recap of the facts. Now we have to move on to the research portion of the assignment. This is the predictive research. So we have one party claiming assault. The first possible element of research that would be needed would be defining the word assault and what is needed to prove assault. In other work we have done this semester, we have discussed certain elements of negligence and torts. Based on this and what we've done in the past, my first search on Westlaw is going to be what are the elements of assault. That was what I entered into the search bar, but this is the case that I pulled up right here. Now, in this document, I can search within the document for a certain word, but since we're supposed to go through everything based on this, I'm going to say, what are the elements of assault? And it has Mississippi as my jurisdiction right here. So this is, like I said, this is the one that comes up first. I decided to pick this one. Now, on my computer, I have a MacBook. I would use the keys on my keyboard, Command and F, to find something within the document. It's going to be different for everybody else, but this is a quick way to find what you're searching for. I wanted to search elements because that's what was my original search. So it says 5 results came up. I'm going to go down. And we have right here, I'm going to zoom in for everyone for better readability right here. It says intentional tort of assault is committed where a person, 1, acts intending to cause a harmful or offensive contact with a person of the other or a third person or an imminent apprehension of such contact, and 2, the other is thereby put in such imminent apprehension. So like the document says, assault includes acts intending to cause a harmful or offensive contact with a person. We know that Mark acted on his intention to cause harm to Jason, but how did Jason's consent play into this? That's one of the, it's a read off of one of the questions, the legal questions that was presented. Our next search would be about consent, because that's one of the big deals that's put into play here. You know, did he consent to being punched? Now, when talking about assault and intoxication together, we usually come across more cases involving sexual assault and consent rather than simple assault. And defining consent can be tricky. Most of us have already figured out the definition of consent based on where we are in our legal education. So, you know, if you put it into Westlaw, you'll get information about search and seizures and medical malpractice, as well as consent in regards to sexual assault, rape, etc. If you search in Black's Law Dictionary, which is another tool we've been given throughout the semester, you'll probably get results about implied and express consent, which is what I got, and we don't need to define the definition between that. In layman's terms, it's simply permission to do something. If you are confused about that, you can do a quick Google search. Most of us know the definition of consent. So my next search on Westlaw was I typed consent /P assault. You can see it right here. This is what I typed, and there was 124 results that popped up. The case that I'm about to discuss was from the search right here, Lizana versus Lang. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I zoomed it in for you guys. In here we have it's at the very, very top right here. It says Mississippi Annotated Code 1892, Section 1428, provides that in all trials for assault and battery, defendant may give in evidence, in excuse or justification, any insulting words used toward him at the time of the assault by the person assaulted. But the acceptance of a challenge to fight and the voluntary engaging in a fight because of the challenge cannot be set up as a defense, for the defendant must show that he is without fault, and fighting under a challenge is unlawful and affords no justification. So fault is a big word, and here, whose fault is this? You know, we have Jason saying that, oh yeah, go ahead and punch me. So there's fault there, but there's also fault on Mark's side because, you know, he actually did the punching and the assault. With my research that I've done so far, it seems that even though Mark didn't deliver a stomach punch, which is, part of the question, he still engaged in a so-called fight that Jason was asking for. When Mark accepted this challenge that Jason put out to go ahead and punch me, man, he instantly accepted the possible charges that could be brought upon him. So when I was looking for consent in the same sentence of assault, I would do consent /s assault. I got fewer results. I think it was around 49. And most of the cases dealt with medical malpractice, which wouldn't really help in this case. It has nothing to do with it. It seems as though there isn't much case law available to back up my claim and answer. And a lot of these cases are old. Like you can see here, April 22nd, 1907. Maybe it's because of my choice of jurisdiction and, Mississippi, I'm not sure, or I'm not doing a very thorough research. I did look through a lot of cases, so, feedback would be really appreciated in this case. Either way, another case that I found is when I did consent /P intoxication, so searching for those two in the same sentence. I did the exact thing of I did the Command F in here and I searched intoxication, which is why these are highlighted in yellow. I'll go ahead and zoom it in for you guys again. This is a very, very old case. It's from 1848. It's Newell versus Fisher. And here you see it's going to state, I'll go ahead and highlight it for you guys so you can see. It says, his state of intoxication, amounting almost to insensibility, deprives at law invalidate a deed obtained from him while in that condition. So long as a person remains in that situation, he is incapable of contracting, since it seems him incapable of a consent. So, we're not talking about deeds, we're not talking about contracting, nothing like that. It doesn't seem like there's a flag on the document, like there's no flagging up here, red, yellow, green, or anything like that. It doesn't seem like it would be rendered useless, but it is very old. I found that a lot of the cases that I found in Mississippi were old, like I said earlier. Even though this case isn't very similar to this example we've been given, I find it interesting that it says that intoxication deprives a man of his reason. And if you do relate it to this case, Jason was incapable of reason, which led him to challenge Mark. And then it can also be said, so we're looking and see what Jason's lawyers would argue. And it can also be said that Mark was deprived of reason as well when he decided to punch Jason in the jaw. He might have thought that it was a reasonable choice since he was intoxicated and challenged, and that's what his brain might have been telling him. So let's go back to the legal questions that were asked in the video where we were given the example. The first question that was asked was, can Mark argue that Jason gave consent? So based on the definition that I gave everyone at the beginning, Jason did give permission, also known as consent, to Mark to deliver a stomach punch, either way, to assault him in general. Assault, it's a large word, but to deliver a stomach punch. And the permission did occur even though he was intoxicated. So yes, Mark can argue that Jason gave consent. Number 2 question was, could Jason counter that he only authorized a stomach punch? So Jason's original challenge was for Mark to punch him in general. He said in the beginning, I bet I can take it. He dared Mark to punch him saying, I bet I can take it. And then after he said no, he grabbed his wrist and yanked his arm towards the stomach saying, come on, do it. So he didn't generally say, hey, punch me in the stomach. He said, go on, punch me. I bet I can take it. So technically, he authorized a punch in general. That's how I took it. The punch to the face wasn't expected, of course. He expected a punch to the stomach, but he consented to a punch, not just a stomach punch. So the third question was, could Jason counter that his intoxication negated his request? I think that yes, intoxication plays a lot into reasoning. Jason could say that since he was intoxicated, he didn't know what he was getting himself into by challenging Mark. Also, moreover, he was asking for a stomach punch, but he also asked for a punch in general, so he didn't know what he was getting himself into. But then for our client, Mark, you could also say that Mark wasn't thinking clearly either when he decided to punch Jason because he was intoxicated as well. Maybe he didn't hear, or maybe he didn't, think, oh, just punch him in the stomach. He thought, oh, punch this guy in general because he asked me to punch it. I bet I can take it. My answer, according to my research, is pretty complex. I think that there were missing facts from the claim. In that case, what Ms. Johnson would say, it depends. We are unaware of how drunk both of the parties were. We were also unaware if Jason meant he only wanted to be punched in the stomach or if he withdrew consent from a general punch in general, if he changed his story at all. However, I think that since this case is so complex and a multitude of factors are brought into play, I think that a court would most likely deny the motion to dismiss for Mark. I think that when all of the facts are considered, a trial should be held to decide this case based on all the legal questions that are brought forth. All right, well, thanks guys for listening to my presentation. I look forward to hearing some feedback for this case and look forward to viewing everybody else's presentation. Have a good day.